with some introductions, opening remarks. So I guess I'll start as I'll moderate. I'm Wes. I'm with Adwerx. I've been working in the advertising space for about 6-7 years now. I'm really excited to kind of dive into everything that has happened in the household, the home, real estate in the last year. Obviously, it's been probably as fast changing as it's ever been. And thrilled to be joined by Cara. You want to introduce yourself as well?
Hi, Cara Whitley from Century 21. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer, and there has been a lot going on in real estate in the past little bit over a year. So looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. And I think the easiest place to start is what's changed. And obviously I would imagine most people listening in are probably at home. That is obviously a big shift. And, I would love to kind of hear your thoughts on how is the word home, how have homes changed for the consumer, for the homeowner, for the renter in the last, year, 2020, let's call it.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Our perception, everyone's perception of home has absolutely shifted over the last year plus. We were all kind of immediately put into our homes. And in the past, we used to kind of plan our home around where we worked. And now our home has absolutely become the center of everything that we do. In fact, Accenture labeled 2020 as the decade of home. And it's really appropriate because our home has become our workplace, our gym, our restaurant. If you have children, it's become your school. And we've actually got an interesting view on this because being in 86, 87 countries, it's the first time that the entire world has gone through the same thing at the same time together. So we just launched a global piece of research to really look at what does home mean today, but not only today, moving forward. And what is that going to look like? Because if you're an existing owner or you're looking to buy your first home or to maybe upgrade, everyone right now is either remodeling, selling, or looking to buy, because those are the key things that are going on, because what you utilize your home for and how you view your home has absolutely changed because of the amount of time you're spending in it, or thinking about what it has become to you that it wasn't 16, 18 months ago. So that's really changed us, had us change our reflection on what we want. Outdoor spaces have become much more important. I heard someone say the other day that the pool guys are booked until 2024. So if you want to build a pool, good luck. You're going to be about 3 years out. Fire pits, all those outdoor entertaining options. People are now looking for at least 2 home offices in a home gym space. The open space with open concept homes were such a big priority in the past. Now people want distinct spaces in their home. So the style of home has changed a lot. Where you want your home, second homes have become primary homes. Second home markets, resort home markets are now the hot spots. Urban areas have become a little bit less desirable in many cases, which have opened up opportunities for renters. So there's been so many shifts going on that have really opened up possibilities for a lot of different people throughout the market. With that, there's not much inventory out there. So it's also tightened things up for people at the same time.
Yeah, and I think to build on that, one of the things you said that's interesting is a lot of these goods or areas of the home that used to be luxuries. They would be something you wouldn't get value out of. I think you've shared some thoughts on how that's kind of shifted. On what might have been pool is a great example. In the past, you had a pool, it's really nice, but you weren't going to get that back in the value of your home. So if you've seen those trends across a lot of different parts of the house, is that something that different consumers are viewing it differently, or across the board? It's now great to have the home gym, no matter where you are.
Yeah, that is right now, that's pretty much across the board. And you're absolutely right. In the past, it was, if you happen to want a pool, great for you, invest in that, but don't expect to see a return on that investment. Where now you are receiving a return on that investment. We'll see how long that lasts, but you are absolutely seeing a return on that. And the home office is one of the biggest things that people are needing. And they're not only needing it for if you've got 2 adults in the home, they also need it for children right now. They need a place to work. And people don't necessarily want to be working out of a bedroom. They want that dedicated workspace that they can close off. So those smaller spaces within homes are becoming incredibly important. And then you want your entertainment zone, you want your workout zone, you have the kitchen. So that's where the open concepts are now reverting back to different spaces within the home. So it's so interesting to see those dynamics change. And then the outdoor space has become incredibly important as people have really looked to their home to become their primary entertainment center too. And that's not a fleeting kind of factor of just the past 12 months. People have formed habits. You know, they say the old adage is it takes 21 days to form a habit. We've been in this for 15 months. So the habits are there, and people have really understood the importance of having what you want, you know, right in your own space.
Thanks for the reminder on the length there. Sure, I'm not the only one to have worked from a bedroom throughout this. I guess the last one on kind of this topic, you hit on it twice. I'll ask the difficult question, which is, how long do you see this shift happening? I mean, as you said, it's been labeled the decade of the home. You know, is this a trend that you at Century 21 see this is here to stay? It will recede slightly, but it's mainly here to stay, or we could see a big reversion in the next 10 years.
You know, I think it's going to vary for different people in different ways. You know, we're not all alike, and there's no one size fits all. However, we believe in, from what we're seeing in trends, it's not something that's just a fleeting moment in time, because it is something that we've lived with for quite a while, and people are now looking forward and saying, I don't want to say it, but what's next? And that fear of the unknown is leading people to say, you know, I want to make sure that what I have in my home actually meets a wider variety of my needs, where in the past I didn't think through the whole wide variety of needs. It was more about, is it near the school I want, or is it near where my workplace is? Where now that variety of needs has broadened out to have much larger consideration set. That we don't believe is going to go away. And you can see it because people have actually picked up and moved, even if their workplace has not said that you're a remote employee. So that's a really interesting trend, is employees have said, you know what, my home and where I want to live has become so important to me that I'm going to make that my first priority. I'll figure out work next. Right now, you're seeing about 25 or 30% of employers move to that work anywhere distributed workforce mode. But employees, even if they haven't been told that, have decided that they're going to go into that mantra. Interesting, in the last week, you're seeing, you know, Jamie Dimon came out from Chase and said, we're going back into the office. We can't wait to get back in the office. I think that there's a real need for people to make human connection. However, that will be interesting to see how that ultimately shakes out.
Yeah, I found it interesting that the head of a global firm said he was canceling all Zoom meetings. So we'll see how well that works out. But on that global topic, I was shocked when my cousin said she was moving to Costa Rica with her 2 young daughters. And I think I'm probably not the only one that knows someone that's thought of doing that. To your point, you guys are in over 60 countries. You know, when you have a unique perspective on a lot of these global trends, probably on a lot of these programs that these countries have stood up during this pandemic. My mindset is very focused here on the U.S., obviously, but, you know, would love to kind of hear some of your insight on what you are seeing in terms of trends, not only what home means globally, but in how people are viewing that their home could be global now.
Yeah, we have seen lots of that. You've definitely seen lots of countries open up opportunities, really releasing visa restrictions and promoting the fact that you can come there and work from very desirable locations. You've seen a lot of it going on throughout the Caribbean, a little bit easier right now. Travel has been a little bit limited based on what country you might be looking at. You know, Barbados was one of the very first countries to kind of grab that opportunity with the pandemic, and they put out a 12-month Barbados welcome stamp and really promoted that idea of come here for a year and work. One of our brokers moved to Mexico for over a year and worked from Mexico, no problem. Still ran the brokerage with his partners, but he just happened to be based in Mexico. There's some countries in Europe that have historically offered it, but are now really promoting that even more. Greece is one that's offered a golden visa for foreigners who actually purchase real estate over about 250,000 euros. And then that qualifies you for a 5-year renewable resident permit. We're also seeing South Koreans are coming into the US and really looking at not only residential property, but some commercial property in the US because they're seeing opportunity there. So we're seeing that movement come both ways. So it's really opened up possibilities both for Century 21 and beyond brokers and agents, as well as just homeowners, and having lots of new opportunities when they think about what it means to work from anywhere and what those possibilities might mean for them.
Yeah, and obviously, I think a lot of people have been timid in terms of how they market during COVID. People have made some funny missteps or bad ones. With a global brand, with a lot of this shifting, with these programs that a lot of people might not be educated in, is this something that you're building on as a brand, taking advantage of being a global leader? How have you been able to leverage your position to kind of benefit from these
Well,
changes?
the biggest thing that we're doing from a global standpoint is the research that I mentioned earlier. We've launched this proprietary piece of research to really understand what home looks like in the future, because we want to be able to arm our agents with that knowledge so they can really help their customers, their home buyers and sellers, help them think through the things that they might not have thought of yet. Because when you do go into purchasing a home, you're not just doing that for the next year, you're doing it for the next several years. And so you want to make sure that you're really thinking through what those trends are, and you're buying an asset at the end of the day, not just your dream home, but it also is an asset that you want to make sure is a saleable asset at the point that you get ready to sell it. So we want to make sure that our agents are absolutely armed and have that real thought leadership for their customers so they can help them think through what that next person may want, or just make sure that you're buying an asset that will also appreciate in value. Not that anything is ever guaranteed in the real estate space, as we all know, but we want to make sure that we arm our agents with as much knowledge as possible that you can't just find online. So being able to go out and really delve into the minds of consumers and understand kind of what's going on underneath the surface and really understand what's driving those decisions, to make sure that our agents have as much knowledge as possible when helping their home buyers and sellers make that really important decision every step of the way. So that's one reason that we are launching this study. And it's actually also in partnership with Nat Geo. As part of our 50th anniversary, we are going to be doing a documentary, which will come out later this year. So everyone will have the benefit of some of that research and really understand what some of those micro and macro trends look like. And we think that it's going to be just a huge human interest piece too, because there is so much interest into how the pandemic has shifted mindsets and what those longer term actions will be as a result of it.
Yeah, I think when we look at a little bit more of a North American view of it, obviously home builders cannot buy the supplies to build the new homes that are in a lot of demand. I think the last I saw it was over 400%, kind of the baseline cost. And that's obviously put a crunch on a lot of agents in terms of getting more transactions. Inventory is so low. I knew someone here based out of Durham, North Carolina. They put a $550,000 offer on a $440,000 home, and someone outbid them. It's getting a little bit crazy. Obviously, arming your agents with a fantastic wealth of research is something that they can walk into a listing, presentation, talk to potential clients about, and build that trust. When you look at how homes are moving so quickly, what are you advising that you share your agents and some of your brokerages on in terms of how to use marketing to help secure more transactions? What are they actually going to help to sell and market that home in this very tight inventory?
Yeah, and you're right. Inventory is really tight right now. We're under a month's supply, which is just crazy. And you have 20, 30, 40 offers on any house, and it goes in days. So it is a tough market out there right now, which is a blessing and a curse at the same time, because you want to be able to help people get into homes that they want. So from a Century 21 standpoint, we really focus on investing not only on the marketing side, but also in enhanced technology platforms to really help drive lead gen, but also helping our agents on their social media platforms to make sure that they're engaging with current and future customers, and really looking at ways to drive those leads and position our agents as the industry experts that they are, because making sure that they have that critical connection with their customers that they either have or haven't met is really important. We just launched a new product that we're really excited about, which is the Century 21 Tracker. One of the biggest pain points for customers when buying or selling a home is, I don't hear from my agent. I don't know what's going on. And if you think about it, agents, they do this all the time. They're really used to everything that happens. But if you're a consumer, you're sitting there, it's a little stressful to buy or sell a home, and you're told that there's a closing date of March 20th, whatever your closing date is. You're trying to plan a move around it. You're trying to plan lots of other actions around it. You're dealing with your mortgage guy, and everyone's telling you, oh, you're not going to hit that date. You're like, but you set a date. Why aren't I going to hit it? And it's really confusing and really stressful because, you know, we don't buy or sell homes very frequently as the consumer. So it's not second nature. And so what the tracker is meant to do is really illuminate all of the hard work that a Century 21 agent is doing behind the scenes. So often you hear someone say, I just bought a home, I just signed the offer. That's when the hard work kicks in, is after you sign the offer until the closing happens. So the Century 21 tracker helps the consumer understand what's going on and if they're on track to hit that closing date. And if they're starting to get off on track, they'll know if there's pieces of the puzzle that they need to help move along, or their agent will be able to reach out and say, hey, don't worry about it. This happens. You're absolutely on track. And the other really cool thing about it is it allows the consumer, through kind of an emoji-based system, to let their agent know when they're feeling a little bit overwhelmed or stressed, because then the agent can also reach out to them. So it's got a two-way interface to communicate with each other. Because think about this category. We don't ask someone how they're feeling about their whole experience until after that sale is completely done. And that can be a 2 or 3 month process. That's really crazy because there's so many different steps in the journey that a consumer may feel great or dissatisfied or sort of okay. So we need to be able to get that constant feedback so we can adjust and adapt the service that we're providing. So that's one of the pieces of the tracker that I absolutely love, is that two-way communication, so we can make sure that we truly are delivering an extraordinary experience through every single step of the journey versus waiting until the very end to go, oh, hey, how did that go? So really an interesting product that we're really excited to be able to supply to our agents so they can have better communication and connectivity with their customers every single step of the way.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think every consumer is different as well. And I think that's part of what makes the job so difficult. You know, I remember when I was buying my home, I was like, I don't want to deal with it. Like this, like, I won't be, you know, I won't be pestering you, but I'm just going to assume everything's really smooth. And, you know, whereas there's someone who I'm sure is probably giving the emoji feedback every single day to their agent. And you know, when you invest in innovative technology like that, or in a research study with Nat Geo, you know, how much do you feel this is an investment? You know, there's the obvious immediacy of that, but also there are probably a lot of discouraged home buyers seeing what's going on. How much is that an investment in the future, not only of your agents and your brand, but also to stay in front and to stay relevant and innovative in front of consumers that will be coming in years to come? You know, where is that balance for you today versus, you know, tomorrow in many ways?
Oh, it's absolutely a balance, because for us to be able to help our agents and brokers from a brand standpoint, we've got to be relevant. You know, we've got industry leading brand awareness, likelihood to recommend, and respect, but it all comes down to having a brand that's relevant to consumers. And the types of things like our tracker, or making sure that we're providing that thought leadership and helping consumers understand what they might need in the future from a home, that's what drives that relevancy for consumers and honestly for agents. So those are the types of things that really make that connection to the brand and help agents want to be part of Century 21, because it starts to set us apart, and consumers want to seek out that Century 21 agent, because all of a sudden you've driven that relevancy piece. Because just brand awareness alone is not going to make a brand relevant. Great to have, you know, industry leading brand awareness. It certainly doesn't hurt, but you've got to have some pieces of the puzzle behind that to really drive that value and that connection. I like to talk about it as an emotional connection, and then the innovation and making sure that you've got your customer at the forefront really drives that relevancy forward.
No, and obviously you have a, you know, half-century long recognized brand, from everything from gold jackets, which I know have gone away, to educating the consumer. And what I think is, you're in a unique, you know, a difficult position, but you have, you know, 100,000 representatives bringing this to the consumer across 60 plus countries. How much do you put that, you know, trickling to the consumer, educating the consumer, in the hand of the agents to get out there in brokerages, versus doing it at a brand level because it's that important the consumers see it? You know, how do you balance that? How do you look at that balance?
You know, it's a joint task. Agents are the brand. They are absolutely the brand, because agents are the ones who deliver the service to their consumers every single day. And Century 21 agents absolutely are focused on delivering an experience versus just a transaction. And that's such an important differentiator because, I mean, we call them transactions in this industry, which is really crazy. You know, people come into this category to buy or sell a home and expect it to just be, because it's stressful, it's complicated. We have higher expectations for a $50 Uber ride or a $10 Uber ride or a $50 meal when we used to do those things. I can't tell you the last time I was in an Uber, which is kind of crazy. Anyway, we used to have higher expectations for those things than we do for buying or selling a home, which is the most expensive purchase most of us will ever make in our life. And that's crazy. So where our mindset is to really focus on delivering a holistic end-to-end experience and really being intentional about those little details versus just trying to complete a transaction as quickly as possible. Don't get me wrong, we want to be speedy about it, but we want to make sure that it really is an experience and it's something that we care for every single step of the way versus how quickly can we get this transaction done and just transact throughout it. I mean, think about hotels. I used to work in the hotel industry. If a hotel thought about a stay as a transaction, it would be very different. You know, an ATM, going to an ATM and getting money out, that is very much a transaction, or getting gas is a transaction. We need much more of an experience in our world than a transaction mindset.
Yeah, I don't think I want an emotional experience when I go get gas. I think that would probably be frustrating. But on the flip side, to your point, I mean, it is the most expensive purchase most people will make in their lives. It is an emotional experience. It's, you know, where you might raise your kids. It's where you raised your kids and now you're selling it. I think that's a really good point in that it might be worth the little bit of extra time to make sure the details are taken care of for the consumer. And as I think through the content that you've shared and some of the thoughts on getting like the tracker and informing the consumer of why they'll enjoy that or what the experience will be like when working with Century 21, how have you shifted in terms of getting the message to the consumer? I mean, COVID changed everything. I still drive by some billboards, you know, in rural areas going, wow, that's still up there. You know, how have you changed how you're going to get that message in front of the consumer and in front of your own network and agents?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, the world has shifted a lot. The digital world is obviously incredibly important. You know, traditional advertising still has a place in this world, but there's so many ways you can target people directly and really get your message almost to the individual level of knowing exactly who is ready to buy or sell a home. Content marketing is a huge piece of the puzzle, which if you utilize traditional and combine that with really great content marketing, then it makes your lead gen efforts that much more effective. You know, content marketing in today's world generates 3 times as many leads as outbound marketing, and it costs about 62% less. And the way I really like to frame it, I used to say, you know, if you're funny, you don't walk into a room and say, hey, I'm funny. People know if you're funny. You don't have to tell them. Same as smart, you know, all those tips. You don't like, hey, I'm really smart. So traditional, the way I would frame it is traditional marketing is about telling the world that you're really awesome at something, but content market is about showing the world that you're awesome at what you do. So it's a little bit more authentic and genuine because it's just bringing it to life in an authentic way. And then, like I said a minute ago, it really enhances those other efforts and increases that efficiency. So in today's world, it's incredibly vital because we live in such a digital world. You know, streaming TV has increased dramatically. Streaming has just increased dramatically over the last year and a half. It was already completely on the rise. Voice, podcasts, you know, has a hockey puck trajectory as well. All of those mediums are so incredibly important today. The challenge is if you're an agent or a broker, you might not be seeing the message as much, but your consumers absolutely are. So that's that kind of fine line between balancing traditional and streaming and then the content efforts. We really focus on making sure that we're really bringing to life those great stories. For our 50th, one of our platforms that we're doing is 50 realities of real estate and really showcasing those stories of our relentless agents going above and beyond and delivering that experience versus just a transaction. And I mean, we've got some amazing stories from agents, and we're working on bringing those to life in different ways. We've got some animated storytelling we're doing. It's a little bit hard to shoot production these days. So we went to animation, again, pivoting COVID, but it's also come to life in a really great way, very much on brand and really fresh. So I'm really excited about how that's come to life. And then some more static social type posts with just voiceovers, and then some words too, and just storytelling through words. So there's a variety of different ways we're bringing that to life, but I'm really excited about it because at the end of the day, we're telling our agents stories in a really compelling way. And for the animation, it's the real agent whose story it is. It's their voiceover. So that's a really nice, authentic way that we're bringing that to life too.
Yeah, and as you said, I think that brings as the human on the other side, that brings the emotional part to it. It's not going to the ATM. It is truly a experience that you go through, and I think that's a good way to wrap that up, and how you've really tied together what you're doing as a brand at Century 21, from Nat Geo to the tracker to telling 50 great stories of your agents. I mean, is that global? Is that something you've tried to kind of reach across the different countries, or how have you been able to do that, again, in COVID, where it can be difficult to even get someone to report on?
So there are some global stories mixed in. It's primarily focused on the US, but we do have some global stories sprinkled throughout. And then the global community is utilizing some of the storytelling as well. So it's generic enough that it'll work across the world. So we're excited about that too.
So I think we have about 7 minutes here, and I want to make sure we get to the Q&A because I've seen some. One more big question for you, for the audience listening in. As you look ahead at 2021 and the beginning of 2022, what is your one bold prediction for real estate?
This isn't going to be any big surprise, so I don't know that it's too earth-shattering. We really think, and I think, that it's going to continue to be a high demand over the next 1 to 2 years. We don't think that's going to change. So, and the other thing is the agent will still continue to be a very important piece of the puzzle. How the agent works and what they do behind the scenes will absolutely continue to evolve. Tech absolutely helps an agent and will continue to help an agent be even more efficient and effective. But that delivering a great experience and real estate staying hot for the foreseeable future, we believe is a really exciting thing for our brokers and agents, as well as other brands, brokers and agents. But we're committed to really delivering an experience and enjoying the very exciting roller coaster of a market, but it's on the upswing right now, and we think it'll stay there for a while.
No, I think that's a great prediction. And even as a millennial, I am not using an app like Uber to buy a home anytime soon. And I think I'm probably, a lot of people are in that same boat. So, it's great what you're doing to support the agents. So I'm going to flip this over to the Q&A. If anyone has any questions they'd like to, please go ahead and feel free to put those in there. The first question I see here is, in the past year, we have seen incredible innovation across all industries. What would you say the most innovative way your brand is connecting with the consumer today?
One thing that we did during the kind of height of COVID was we launched virtual open houses literally in 2 weeks, from idea to execution, that was really speedy for us, I'll be quite honest. And it allowed, overnight we had to shut things down, and there were many states where realtors were deemed non-essential, so they couldn't go out and show homes. Customers didn't want people in their homes, but there was still a need for people to be moving. There were healthcare workers who had to move, even in that kind of late March, April timeframe when not a lot was happening. There was still a need for some people to move. So I think that was a big pivot. And then figuring out how to do touchless I'm going to use the word, I hate the word transactions, but I've got to use it. Touchless transactions, and how to get titles through without being in person. Those types of things were really important. And the industry made some big pivots very quickly. So those types of things helped move us forward and help mindsets shift quite quickly. And we're just going to continue to build on that with some things we have underway. So I'm excited about that.
Looking forward to seeing what they are. On that note, there have been a lot of emerging media channels, social media apps that have really come to the forefront during COVID. Obviously, there was a lot of consumer focus on them. How are you factoring that into your strategy? I mean, we touched on streaming TV, we touched on digital, those existed before COVID. When you look at some of these massively growing channels, how much focus do you put on that, and how are you looking at that in your strategy?
Yeah, we use emerging channels. We go after kind of a test and learn strategy, try to see what works, and then we'll double down in areas where we see things working. So that's definitely an area that we always keep our eye on and keep a kind of hand on the pulse. And we'll try things, and then we'll just kind of go all in whenever we see something being effective. There's so many things that pop up every single day that, we try to stay a little bit focused, because I think that you're better off going deep than wide and shallow in some areas to be effective. And there's many ways in today's world to absolutely target home buyers and sellers with all the data and the AI that's out in the world. And we're absolutely taking advantage of that through our media relationships and the latest technology that exists. So it's something that we pivot and change on a monthly basis.
Yeah, and I think you touched on it earlier, and if I misspeak on the stats here, let me know. But again, when you can use content marketing to get 3 times the return at 60% of the cost, there's no reason to spread. Let's distribute that for a worse return is definitely not the answer. And final question that we have here is: many brands have drastically reduced media budgets in the past year. How has your media plan adjusted? If your budget has been reduced, have you gotten more creative and/or efficient with your strategies?
Yeah, so we did reduce our budget somewhat too, because we wanted to be mindful. Back in March and April, we didn't know what was going to go on. So we pulled back a bit and, took a step back to see what was happening, and then really just doubled down in more tactical type areas for 2020, because we wanted to be mindful about making sure that we were helping drive growth for our agents as much as possible. So really focused in on lead gen activities versus the kind of broader scale branding type activities. And so focused in on content marketing and lead gen activities. So those were the areas that we really focused in on and pulled back on the more traditional type activities that we've done in the past.
No, that makes perfect sense. That is all the questions we have. This has been an absolutely wonderful conversation. I hope everyone that's attended has enjoyed it. And Cara, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure on my side having being part of the conversation.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed it as well.
Yeah. Cara, Wes, thank you for joining us. We'll hope you'll come back soon.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Have a great rest of the day.
You
Thanks
too.
so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. All right. So we're going to keep the show rolling. I'm just checking with my team to make sure